Report from the BBC. And now we're joined once again by Salim Lone, who worked in the UN system for more than 20 years and who has written extensively on the situation in Somalia. Now, this has been a very underreported conflict since the Ethiopians invaded Somalia in December. But just this week, there are more bombs going off and more fighting in Mogadishu. It's clear that there's a long-term insurgency situation there. The U.S. has referred to Somalia as an ungoverned space. How do you fit the conflict in Somalia into this paradigm that we've been talking about?
You remember from Somalia, we had a terrible bomb attack on the U.S. Embassy in Kenya and also in Tanzania.
1998.
That was in 1998. And that attack was planned out of what is now the ungoverned space of Somalia. However, not a single Somali participated in that attack. The reason that Al-Qaeda could find room in Somalia to organize was because there was no regime there. There was no security of any kind whatsoever. And now we had precisely the opposite situation. After 15 years of such lawlessness in Somalia, the Islamic Courts Union in June last year suddenly emerged, were able to develop a popular base, were able to provide security, and they were running the bulk of that country. But the U.S., instead of engaging with the Islamic courts, they plotted to overthrow them in the name of fighting terrorism, when in fact we all know this is what creates more terrorism. And so
but Salim, one thing you didn't mention is that the Islamic Courts Union consolidated some control and stability over Somalia through the use of Sharia law, courts that amputate and execute, and I sometimes feel you whitewash the Islamic Courts Union a little bit. I'm glad you're asking those questions. The Americans said that the Islamic Courts Union were acting on the behest of Al-Qaeda, that basically Al-Qaeda controlled them. So this was a complete lie. The Islamic courts were created by Somali businessmen. They were not created by religious people. Even though there were some hotheads in the ICU who, for example, said you couldn't go to football games and you couldn't see films, the Islamic courts as a group were actually quite moderate. The world has to understand that political Islam, which is what Islamists are, has to be dealt with, because whether it's Somalia, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Egypt, political Islam is a very powerful force. It is not inherently anti-American or anti-West. You have to engage with them. There is no reason for them to turn against the West unless they feel that they are under threat. Salim Lone, thanks for being on the map. We're out of time.
Thank you very much.
After the break, neocon attack dogs, best-selling atheists and infidels, and a look in the rear-view mirror. We come back with a whirlwind spin through the highlights of our first month on air.
We talked